A symbol without power, a boy carrying the world's hope, a broken family and a girl consumed by rage. The fate of society hangs by a thread. Let's recap everything from My Hero Academia Season 7. After the Paranormal Liberation War, Japan is in chaos with villains roaming freely and public trust in heroes shattered. At All Might's request, Star and Stripe, America's #1 hero inspired by him, arrives. Meanwhile, All for One hides, planning to steal her quirk, New Order, as the first step toward global domination. Aboard fighter jets, Star confronts Shigaraki fused with All for One. Exploiting the fusion's instability, she solidifies the air to block his oxygen and attacks with her jet's lasers. Shigaraki regenerates and counters. She pins him and attempts a fatal heart rule, but his fractured identity makes him immune. Desperate, she launches a full missile barrage. Limiting herself to 2 rules, strength and defense, Shigaraki survives by burrowing underground with a Nomu quirk. He leaps between jets, steals her quirk, and begins decaying her body. Unknown to him, Star's final rule, New Order will resist all other quirks, activates. In the spiritual realm where All for One stores quirks, her power erupts, destroying his arsenal. Overwhelmed, All for One flees and Star disintegrates, sacrificing herself to buy the hero's time. On land, All Might informs Class 1. Star is gone, but her act weakens Shigaraki and passed hope to the next generation. Shigaraki writhes as the final rule causes the quirks inside him to rebel and destroy each other, while All for One, hiding among the remnants, remains confident in his global domination plans. At UA High, Class 1A trains hard with the time Star bought. Bakugo masters a new technique. Todoroki pushes his limits against Dabi's heat, and the students refine their quirks preparing for the final battle. Yuga Aoyama's betrayal is revealed. Born quirkless, his parents made a deal with All for One, giving him the naval laser and forcing him to spy. Overcome with guilt, he attacks Deku, but Hagakure refracts his laser and Deku restrains him and his parents. The truth surfaces, Aoyama's family acted under fear and blackmail. Deku shows compassion, refusing to call him a villain and proposing to use him as bait, with Class 1A supporting the plan, securing a strategic edge for the final battle. Deku and Ida visit Mei Hatsume for support item repairs, while pro-heroes secretly plan to separate Shigaraki and All for One. Aoyama is chosen as bait, and Aizawa urges him to fight alongside his classmates. Shinso officially joins the hero team. Meanwhile, Toga revisits her childhood home, but Dabi burns it down, pushing her to embrace her twisted power. At the same time, Spinner is manipulated by All for One into becoming the figurehead of the Heteromorph movement. At UA, evacuees are moved to Troy, and Class 1A trains hard, with Deku and Ochaco reflecting on their empathy for villains. The plan is set. Aoyama will pretend to lure Deku, giving the chance to catch All for One. While Shinso brainwashes Aoyama's family to deceive All for One, Monoma copies Warp Gate to mobilize the heroes, and Hatsume's support team prepares massive cages and an airborne arena to contain Shigaraki's decay. With everything in place, the heroes launch Operation Troy. Deku arrives and Aoyama pretends despair before blasting All for One, revealing the trap. All for One summons his army, but Monoma uses Kurogiri's Warp Gate to bring in the heroes. They separate the villains, but the plan falters when Toga pulls Deku through a Warp Gate. Shigaraki is forced into the Sky Arena, where Bakugo, Mirko, and Best Jeanist fight, while Monoma keeps copying Erasure to suppress decay. On the island, Toga confesses her twisted love for Deku and attacks. His danger sense fails, but Ochaco and Tsuyu save him, allowing Deku to escape. Deku flies back towards Shigaraki considering gear shift, but the second One for All user, Kudo, warns him that unleashing its full power recklessly could be disastrous. The battle erupts in a scorched city as Shoto confronts Dabi. Dabi mocks him for coming instead of Endeavor, but Shoto stands resolute, determined to fight on his own. Flashbacks reveal Toya's tragic past, pushing his body beyond its limits to earn Endeavor's approval, inheriting his mother's weakness to heat, and being abandoned when Endeavor shifted focus to Shoto. After nearly burning to death at Sekoto Peak, Toya is recovered and rebuilt by Dr. Garaki under All for One. After discovering that his family had moved on, his pain and hatred transformed him into Dabi, determined to destroy Endeavor's legacy. Back in the present, Dabi unleashes unstable, self-destructive flames, even mimicking Endeavor's Flashfire Fist. Dabi's uncontrolled rage against Shoto's steady control. His burning body pushes past natural limits, making him unpredictable and deadly. Shoto, remembering his training with Deku and his classmates, calmly balances fire and ice with his new ultimate move, Great Glacial Aegir. Dabi launches a suicidal final attack, but Shoto's technique engulfs him in ice, leaving him defeated. Yet even frozen, Dabi forces his body to ignite again, using a technique learned from Endeavor, preparing for one last confrontation with his father. The focus shifts to the intense battle between Endeavor and Hawks against All for One. Hawks warns Endeavor to stay focused, but All for One reveals to Endeavor that he transformed Toya into Dabi. He had planned everything. Endeavor, shaken by guilt, charges recklessly, only to be countered and nearly defeated. A-students Tokoyami and Jiro intervene. All for One targets Jiro as she is the weakest among them, and severely damages both Jiro and Tokoyami, but they don't give up. Jiro, despite her severed earphone jack and injuries, channels her resolve into a sonic assault. Heartbeat surround, legato, destabilizing All for One as the internal quirks he stole begin rebelling. Hawks takes advantage of this moment, striking weak points on the villain's mask with Flight Feather Blade. Tokoyami then lands a crushing punch, shattering the mask and exposing All for One's face, leaving him vulnerable. But this doesn't stop All for One. He lashes out with a deadly attack, but Endeavor returns determined to protect the next generation. Sacrificing his arm, he channels his past failures into resolve and launches a massive prominence burn, engulfing All for One in flames. For a brief moment, the heroes seem victorious. However, All for One regenerates, revealing a hidden contingency powered by Ares' Rewind quirk. He taunts Endeavor, proving the fight and the stakes are far from over. The heroes are left battered but resolute, facing a villain who cannot be easily defeated. The focus shifts to the floating coffin arena, where the battle against Shigaraki escalates. Bakugo leads the charge, coordinating with Mirko and Best Jeanist, unleashing his howitzer impact cluster to bombard Shigaraki. But the Shigaraki easily deflects the attacks and crushes Bakugo's arm, showcasing the terrifying scale of his evolved body. Monoma continuously copies Aizawa's erasure to suppress Shigaraki's decay. Just then, the UA Big Three join to hold Shigaraki until Deku arrives. Yet the heroes struggle to contain him as his body grotesquely mutates, erupting hands and limbs like whips. Mirio taunts him about having no friends, briefly stirring Tenko Shimura's original self. Najir distracts him with energy blasts, reflecting her quirky spirit, and Tamaki fires a colossal, vast hybrid attack. Despite their combined efforts, Shigaraki remains unstoppable. Bakugo, ignoring Best Jeanist's warnings, launches a desperate final attack, envisioning All Might and confessing his admiration and small personal desire to get an autograph. Tragically, Shigaraki anticipates the move, pierces Bakugo's chest and crushes his heart. Bakugo collapses, leaving the heroes shocked and grief-stricken, while the coffin in the sky bears the blood of a fallen hero. Edge Shot heroically enters Bakugo's body with Fold-A-Body to act as a living defibrillator, and Best Jeanist desperately tries to mend him. Shigaraki is about to kill Bakugo, but Mirio, fearing he can do nothing, distracts Shigaraki, giving Deku the chance to arrive. Launched by Star and Stripes pilots with Black Whip, Deku sees the battlefield in ruins and Bakugo gravely injured. Overcome with guilt and rage, he nearly loses focus, but Mirio grounds him. Regaining composure, Deku channels the full power of One for All, activating the evolved Gearshift quirk to control speed at a cellular level. He launches a relentless assault, second gear through top gear, combining Gearshift, Black Whip, and Fajin, overwhelming All for One. Deku calls out to Shigaraki's true self and delivers a massive Detroit smash, punching a hole in All for One's chest. The fusion with Shigaraki fractures but doesn't fully break, leaving the final battle unresolved. At Central Hospital, Spinner leads a massive mob of heteromorphs to free Kurogiri. The heroes, Present Mike, Mezzo Shoji, and Koji Koda, face overwhelming odds. Shoji removes his mask, appealing to the crowd's pain. Despite their efforts, Spinner, corrupted and monstrously enhanced by All for One, breaks through. He rushes toward Kurogiri, but Present Mike stops him just in time. Meanwhile, Shoji halts the massive mob, his words reaching the people. Overwhelmed by memories of Shigaraki, Spinner awakens Kurogiri using Shigaraki's severed hand, activating warp gates that reposition villains across the battlefield. On Okuto Island, Ochaco and Froppy fight Toga, but she ingests twice his blood and unleashes the Sad Man's Parade, creating clones that overwhelm the heroes. Just then, Kurogiri opens a gate, delivering key villains to precise targets and turning the battlefield into chaos. Dabi, driven by rage, attacks Endeavor with blue flames, forcing the father to confront the reality that Dabi is his son. At the UA Fortress, Kurogiri's twice clone disables Eraserhead's quirk, freeing Shigaraki. Shigaraki asserts control over himself, rejecting All for One and embracing his destructive will. The academy begins to fall, but Gentle Criminal creates a massive elastic trampoline, catching it, while La Brava hacks the villain's network to aid the heroes. Just as Shigaraki attempts to touch the ground, Lady Nagant shoots and severs his hand, halting the decay. Deku seizes the opportunity, recognizing Tenko Shimura within Shigaraki, and blasts him out of the fortress to prevent further destruction. Just then, an unexpected thing happens. Kurogiri, confused, saves Aizawa and Present Mike from falling. Meanwhile, at Gunga Mountains, All for One targets Hawks, seemingly killing him. But it's revealed as an illusion created by Kami. She, along with Seiji and Inasa, arrives to aid the heroes. Inasa sweeps away Twice's clones with a massive wind vortex, declaring that heroes control the battlefield. Pixie Bob manipulates the terrain to create shade, allowing Tokoyami to unleash Dark Shadow at full power, overwhelming All for One and forcing him onto the defensive. The villains attempt to awaken Gigantamakia. Kirishima and Mina push forward to get Shinso close. Mina overcomes her fear and unleashes her acid quirk at full strength, giving Shinso the opening to mimic All for One's voice and brainwash Gigantamakia into attacking the airborne villains. Exhausted, Mina collapses, but the plan works. The giant now fights for the heroes. Back to the main battle, the fight rages against All for One. Mount Lady, Hawks, Tokoyami, Gigantamakia, and even Shiketsu students like Inasa and Kamie throw everything they have into the fight. But All for One rewinds into a younger, stronger form and unleashes a blinding blast, scattering the heroes. He slashes down Mount Lady, destroys Gigantamakia, and knocks back Tokoyami and Hawks. Grabbing Hawks by the throat, he steals his fierce wings, leaving him broken and powerless. As All for One turns toward Tokoyami, Mineta desperately offers his pop-off quirk. All for One dismisses him and takes to the sky, leaving the battlefield in ruins and the heroes' desperate stand in pieces. The climax begins as Dabi prepares to self-destruct, threatening the evacuation zone. Endeavor confronts him, ready to sacrifice himself to stop the disaster, but the rest of the Todoroki family arrive to help, using their ice quirks to contain Dabi's flames. Their combined effort shows their love and determination to save him. All Might orders Ida and Shoto to rush in. Ida pushes his engines to the limit, carrying Shoto at blinding speed. Dabi's body breaks under the strain and he detonates. Just then, Shoto counters with great glacial azure, combining his ice with his family's, containing the explosion and leaving Dabi alive but barely hanging on. The focus shifts to Toga, who hears of Dabi's possible death. Her rage cracks her mask, revealing her face. Uraraka notices that Toga's love-driven anger limits her cloning and confronts her directly. Flashbacks show Toga's tragic, rejected childhood. Uraraka awakens her quirk, lifting all clones into the sky and neutralizing the parade. Toga admits she joined the League to be herself and that Deku reminded her of the boy she liked, confessing her fear of never being seen as cute. Uraraka responds with the words that finally reach her. "You're the cutest girl in the world." The clones vanish, and her hatred dissolves. Tragically, Uraraka is badly wounded. In a final act, Toga uses her quirk to transform into Uraraka, performing a blood transfusion at the cost of her own life, smiling as she gives love back. All for One, de-aged and at full power thanks to Rewind, carves through the battlefield on his way to Shigaraki. Quirkless All Might steps forward, unveiling a specialized support item, a transforming armored briefcase designed by Melissa Shield. The armor activates, turning him into Armored All Might, a technological marvel that simulates Class 1A students' quirks. Using the suit, All Might blocks attacks with a red riot-style shield, binds All for One with black whip-like cables, and disrupts his regeneration with electric surges, combining propulsion and strikes to provoke reckless moves. The battle is brutal. All for One counters with overwhelming strength and his vast arsenal of stolen quirks, mocking All Might for fighting without a quirk. Yet All Might relies on strategy, combat knowledge, and the clever use of his suit to hold his ground, keeping All for One on the defensive. Every second he stalls buys time for Deku's battle elsewhere. Flashbacks reveal All Might's early training with Nana Shimura, highlighting her initial refusal to train him for being quirkless, and his passionate declaration to become the symbol of peace. This underscores his determination to protect everyone, with or without powers. The armor begins to crack under the pressure, and All Might takes heavy hits, but he continues to fight relentlessly. The season ends on a cliffhanger with All Might bloodied, and his armor upgraded one final time, standing resolute on his last breath, still blocking All for One's path, unyielding in what could be his final battle. Meanwhile, Deku continues his desperate fight against Shigaraki, the fate of the heroes hanging in the balance. If you want more recaps like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what anime you want to see next.